All right, I want to weigh in a little bit on events in Nepal. I don't have any graphics. There's not going to be any videos. I found most of those videos disturbing beyond imagination. I have never seen anything like this happen before. This is truly catastrophic. And I guess I have to say this because of the kind of comments I get on my videos. No, this was not a man-made disaster. This was not space lasers. This was not HARP. This wasn't chemtrails. What can I say? It wasn't. Okay, this is but on this, at the same time, I don't really want to call this a natural disaster. Okay, this was human caused. So let's just get that out of the way right now. But it wasn't space lasers, and it wasn't aliens, and it wasn't HARP, and it wasn't a conspiracy. And this is where I say what I usually say. The reality of our situation is pretty scary by itself. It's pretty amazing. But we are looking at some changes happening to the Earth system that, frankly, boggle the mind. And I am almost daily gobsmacked by what we are seeing in the natural world. And I don't have to blame it on HARP or the CIA or MK Ultra or anything else. Fluoride in the water, okay? It's just what's happening to us. This is physics, this is nature. And now this small community in this river valley in Nepal has been wiped out. The Chinese are saying things like, don't worry, 3 people died, and even the Nepalese are saying, well, we think 500 tourists are missing and a few hundred natives are missing, but we don't really know the death toll. It's going to be thousands of people missing, and yes, they will find a few bodies, but it will be there'll be 10,000 people missing, all told, on both sides of this, Nepal and China. Not really China. It's Chinese occupied Tibet. Okay. But this is human caused. This is man-made, human caused, and it's because of global heating. We really did do this. This should not have happened except for global heating. Now, I'm going to describe how that happens, but before I do, I want to point out, and this is going to be news for a lot of people, we've been seeing events like this happening for several years now. There was an almost identical event happened concerning India. Same mountain range, right? Himalayan mountains. Same mountain range, same phenomenon, huge flood, ice flow, debris flow, wiped out a bunch of villages, wiped out a bunch of people. And then you never heard about it again. It made the evening news, and then we never heard about it again. Geologists go back and look at these things. Emergency event managers go back and look at these things. The governments go back and look at these things. And they publish scholarly papers, and they have papers at the government agencies and all these kinds of things. And, whatever. Okay, it's just, what is wrong with my video? Is that really what you people are seeing? Are you seeing 2 images? Because I'm seeing 2 images. Anyway, I'm going to let it go. If it's 2 images, then it's weird. It's doing something weird. How is this related? Okay, on the Indian side in the Himalayas, something similar happened. Pakistan had some catastrophic flooding that covered 2/3 of the country some years back, attributable to catastrophic melting of the ice in the Himalayan mountains that service Pakistan. Also, Europe, the Alps, are seeing increasing numbers of massive rock falls, where basically half of a mountainside comes down. And at the same time that in the Alps, they're seeing no snow, glaciers are in retreat, local streams and rivers are flooding from glacial melt, which is a bit unusual for those places, and so on. So this is I don't like that there's 2 images over here. Why is this happening? Something weird is happening with my stream. I have no idea. We're just gonna let it go. I'll find out later if it was actually something you people could see or not. So this is happening globally. And what just happened in Nepal is, I would say, a more cataclysmic version of all these other events. But this has been going on for a while now. And it's all 100% due to global heating. What is happening? We are entering hothouse Earth, and it's going to become difficult for ice to exist on this planet. That's just what happens. It's all going to melt. And, we know about the sea level rise, and, the storm surges are going to come further inland. Oh, and there's going to be river flooding and things like that. Oh, and then the rivers dry up, by the way. Once the ice that has been kind of maintaining the river flow, once the ice disappears, then the rivers are entirely dependent on rainfall, which is intermittent. Ice melting provides a constant flow of source water for rivers near the Alps, near the Himalayan mountains. And it maintains a certain minimum of flow because the ice is melting all the time. And then in the winter, the ice is built back up by snowfall. And then it melts in the summer, it builds back up. Same thing happens in California with the Sierra Nevada mountains, where the snowpack is really, really super important to having water in California. The same thing happens in the Colorado River Basin, which is really, really important to have snow in the Rockies because it maintains a minimum flow in the Colorado River. And when the Colorado River, if you've been paying attention, is drying up, and the big reservoirs, Lake Mead and Lake Powell, are drying up, and there's big fights right now over Colorado River water because the ice has vanished. And most people won't tell you that. Most people won't talk about that. They won't make the connection at all. So ice is disappearing really all over the planet, everywhere. And as it does, we start to see these types of events. Rivers start to run dry that have been, reliable for thousands of years. Okay, mountains start to lose their ice, and we know that because we use snow and ice for recreational purposes. So resorts and things that expect snow and ice in the winter, they're not getting it, and we hear about that, right? Economic impacts. And then we're having these rock falls. So let me mention a couple of things that happened in Europe. In all aspects of the European Alps, they're seeing massive rock falls. There was one in Blatten that happened, I think that's the Austrian side, although I don't know for sure. It might have been Switzerland. Something happened in Blatten, and half a mountain came down quite suddenly. And I don't think it actually killed anybody because it didn't hit the village proper, but it came down so close to the village. I mean, really, like right up into people's backyards. The rock fall came into people's backyards. It was so bad that they had to evacuate the village because rocks were still falling down, and who knows what else could happen. So they had to evacuate the village of Blatten. The debris fall created a natural dam across a river, which then backed up with water, and they were afraid the river was going to break through the dam catastrophically, as you do, and so they had to evacuate downriver all the way to like a major town. And they couldn't evacuate the town because it was such a big town, I can't remember what the name of it was, that they were just afraid to evacuate the town. It's just too big. So they were going to cross their fingers, hope it doesn't come to that. I don't think it ever did. But they did evacuate all the little villages along this river that now had a new artificial lake on it. And they were talking about dynamiting the dam to try and get the water to come out in a controlled manner, and maybe they did those things, I don't know. But what was happening in the Alps, and what just happened in the Himalayan mountains, is that these are very old mountains that for really millions of years have been covered in ice. And the ice covers all the rocks, and the ice is so solid that it acts as like glue or plaster to sort of hold the mountain together. Meanwhile, at the same time, this has happened simultaneously. Successive winters and summers and winters and summers melt water, the water runs through the cracks, and then the next winter it freezes solid. Well, when water freezes, it expands a little bit. And so for really thousands of years, since the last glacial maximum, and that's about 6,000 years ago, for 6,000 years, the constant freeze thaw cycles have caused these huge mountainsides to get cracks in them. Now, I'm talking about the Alps, but we could just as easily be talking about the Himalayan mountains. They get cracks in them, and the cracks aren't that big, but you can definitely see them. And they're monitoring right now great big cracks in other parts of the Alps. The cracks that you can't even jump over. They're just huge. They're like 10, 15, 20 feet across. And that rock that is being separated from the mountainside is just like balancing. It's just and they're measuring the crack, right? And so it's just, but before all that could happen, the ice had to melt. And now the piece is starting to fall away from the mountain. So they expect that to go anytime. And these rocks, they really are the sides of mountains. This isn't a rock like what, you might have a rock in your front yard, decorative rock in your front yard. These are boulders the size of 40-story or even 80-story buildings. These are absolutely enormous. They weigh tens of millions of tons, if not hundreds of millions of tons. And these used to be covered in ice. But as the ice melts, then these things can let go. So that's what's been happening in the Alps. The mountains are letting go as the ice disappears. So that's an ongoing thing. Will they tell us about that? No, they're not going to tell you about that. They want you to come to their picturesque villages in the Alps and enjoy the scenery and eat the cheese and drink the wine and, enjoy the natives and the quaint villages. And meanwhile, when you're not there, they're looking at the mountain wondering, what's going on up there? Okay. And there are various nations with their own departments of geology, geophysics, that are monitoring these mountains and trying to determine where the danger really is. Okay, so no one's monitoring the Himalayan mountains in Nepal. I've just been talking about Europe, right? The Alps, Switzerland, Italy, France, right? Austria. So we're talking about the European Alps. Of course, they're going to throw money at that. But no one's doing any kind of monitoring in the Himalayan mountains. So this thing came down. Now, there's been a lot of speculation. There was early speculation that it was caused by an earthquake. Okay, we're going to talk about proximate causes, like what happened. And then we're going to talk about the ultimate cause. Why did it happen? Okay, so let's talk about the proximate causes. What set this off? There has been some speculation that there was a small earthquake up in the mountains, which is about half to be expected. The Himalayan mountains are active seismic zones. They're growing. The mountains are being thrust up like 2-3 centimeters a year, and that causes all kind of crustal dynamics. So someone said, there was an earthquake, set off a rock fall or a glacial collapse. And then, no, they determined later, no, that isn't what happened. What happened was that when the system collapsed, probably a rock fall, a big rock fall, but jury is still out. The impact, just the thud on the ground, created an earthquake that was like greater than magnitude 5. So a lot of energy got released very quickly. And then everything came down. Okay, well, that's your proximate cause. Okay, well, there's more to it than that, because this particular glacier doesn't have a name. Again, nobody's studying it. The only reason we know it's there is because we have satellite images that tell us what's going on with that. So they know there's a glacier there, and they know, and the glacier has some features that make it look now, in hindsight, like it was ready to go. A couple of things. All the ice masses, all the glaciers on the planet are now in terminal decline. Terminal decline means it's going to decline until it vanishes, until it terminates. So these glaciers are shrinking, their thickness is being reduced, and they're getting dirty. So Nepal is basically downwind of India. A lot of pollution in India from industries that are not regulated, all the automobiles, burning diesel, burning coal. They burn cow manure. Okay, so this is very dirty fuels, create a lot of dust and smoke, not dust, soot and smoke. So that all goes up and then into Nepal, and it's the soot, the black soot settles on the ice. Well, the black soot can absorb sunlight, doesn't reflect it. The ice itself will generally reflect sunlight to some degree, but when you coat it with a layer of soot, it absorbs sunlight instead. And then in a tragic phenomenon, the soot doesn't go away. In fact, it just concentrates. There's always more coming in from outside the system. But also, when the soot is on the surface of the ice and the ice is melting away because the soot is absorbing heat, okay, the soot just settles and concentrates and it doesn't go anywhere. It just keeps burning down through the ice, essentially. And then you start exposing rocks and dirt and other stuff that's in the glacier, and that's also absorbing heat. So it just keeps burning it all the way. And so the glacier not only shortens with melting at the terminus, but it also deflates. And all this deflation and all this shortening sends water down through the glacier to the bottom and to the sides. The bottom is usually bedrock, and the sides is usually bedrock because it's just been scouring for thousands, tens of thousands of years, scouring away anything that can be moved, because a glacier is a river of ice and it just moves down the mountain all the time. It's constantly being built up at the higher elevations, and then it flows down the mountain to lower elevations, and it finally melts, becomes liquid water again. But it moves like ice, and you can measure these things. And some glaciers can move 2 to 3 feet a day, and some of them are faster than that. They'll move 2 or 3 feet a minute. So as it's been thinning vertically and shrinking in every other dimension, water goes down through it, and this water in general, liquid water in general, is the enemy of ice. So as the water goes through, it finds channels and it melts its way down through that ice. And so that ice, and heaven forbid that it ever rains, which it is also doing, because we don't have snow at elevations as much as we used to. Still do, but not as much as we used to. So sometimes it rains on the glacier. And if it doesn't rain on the glacier, well, the glacier itself is melting. And so this water percolates down through the ice, finding channels, making channels, and the ice becomes slushy over time. The ice is also warming. So maybe the ice was minus 30 degrees below freezing at one point, and then it was 10 degrees below freezing. And then the ice was 1 degree below freezing. Plus it's melting at the surface and the water is making its way down through. So the ice loses its structural integrity. And then it can go. It can break. So what happened in Nepal? Couple of different thoughts. This glacier was already in terminal decline. It was already turning into a slush ball. There's some photographic evidence from before the big wave came down that some of the waterways, the rivers and streams, were at flood stage. There was a lot of water because there's been a lot of melt. Was it July? Last month, July or June, was the hottest month on record for that region. They've been having a heat wave. So it comes as no surprise. There was a lot of water in the bottoms of these huge canyons because there's been a lot of runoff. So all of that combined, all of that's global heating. 100%. All of that's 100% global heating. The glacial retreat, the fact that there's a lot of meltwater, the fact that the rivers were full of meltwater, that there was a lot of water in this system. The glacier is probably full of water as the glacier melts and the water percolates down through. And so ultimately something happened. Now, if what's happening in the Alps is any indication, and if the signal of an earthquake, probably not something else, is any indication, then probably one of the mountains just fell. One of the mountainsides just split off and fell. And maybe it fell directly on the ice. Maybe it fell nearby and caused enough vibration. Again, it was like an earthquake. It was an earthquake. It just wasn't caused by plate tectonics or volcanism. It was caused by a big rock dropping on the earth from up in the mountains. Okay, who knows? It may have fallen 5,000 feet. Right? Could be a rock that weighed 100 million tons falling 5,000 feet. The Pyramid of Giza weighs 7 tons, so it's big. Many, order of magnitude bigger than the Pyramid of Giza. That's how big the rock might have been. So, whether it hit the ice directly or just hit nearby and it shook things up a lot, the ice, which was already brittle, already melting, already lost a lot of its structural integrity, already had a lot of water in it, was already slushy, was probably perched on a hillside, melting slowly, but just perching on a hillside. These hillsides are very steep. You wouldn't be able to walk up them, right? Really steep hillsides. It's perched on the top of this hillside, and it's melting, and it's becoming unstable, and then boom, it goes. And a big chunk of it went. And since it was already slushy, and there was already a lot of water in the system from glacial melt and all this kind of stuff, when it came down the mountain, it just pushed water in front of it. And plus, the ice itself being probably somewhat slushy, just turned into water. This is called when it acquires kinetic energy from motion, and all the rocks, bouncing around inside of it and hitting each other and causing heat. Well, it's like putting ice into a blender. You want chipped ice, or you want to make a smoothie with ice. Well, you just put the ice in the blender, and the blades of the blender, which are like rocks in this case, and just the energy from the motor of the blender will cause the ice to just disintegrate. And if you keep blending it, it'll turn to liquid, and it won't take long, because all that kinetic energy of hammering the ice crystals will cause them to melt. So some combination of things caused this thing to basically liquefy. And then it came down the mountain as essentially a liquid. And the system was full of liquid because of all the ice melt. And so it just, as it came down the mountain, it was like a bulldozer. It just plowed all that water ahead of it. And it didn't have to go very long before finally it had a wall of water 100 feet high or 200 feet high. And it simply overwhelmed everything. And once these things get going, these canyons are very narrow, very steep sides. And there's no place for the water to spread out and slow down. So once it gets going under the influence of gravity, plus it's sweeping up more rocks, more water as it goes, right? Because all these things are in the system. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's nowhere for it to go. And it has to go all the way to the flats. And that could be, 500 miles downstream. And as it goes, it just destroys everything. And there's nowhere for it to spread out because it's in a canyon, a steep canyon. It can't go up the sides. It can't go off to the edges. It's a steep canyon. It's a steep canyon all the way down. So like a garden hose. You put water in one end of a garden hose, it comes out the other end because there's nowhere else for it to go. And so that's basically what happened in Nepal. So that's all of the proximate causes, right? The ultimate cause of all this is global heating. All of it. 100% of this is caused by global heating. And geologists will tell you, well, it's caused by a rock slide. And hydrologists will tell you, well, it's caused by the saturation of the soils from the meltwater. And the glaciologists will tell you, well, the glacier was in terminal decline already, and it was already failing structurally interiorly. And I'm telling you, it's all global heating. Everything those guys are saying, it's this, it's that, it's the other thing, it's all global heating. The reason the glacier was thinning and melting and retreating was because of global heating. The reason the rocks fell was because the ice that was basically holding them together disappeared, and there was nothing holding them together anymore, and so they fell. It's called mass wasting. And the reason why there was so much water in the system, maybe even flood stage in some places, was because of all the melting caused by global heating. So yeah, all these things are proximate reasons, but the ultimate reason is global heating. So this is going to happen again. And, someone may tell you, well, this is a rare event. This is like once in 1,000 years. Well, India just had one. Pakistan had one. So maybe for that village that just got wiped out and everyone killed, basically thousands of people died. I mean, they'll never find them, right? So let's say, well, 2 or 3 people died, right? We have 2 or 3 people went to the hospital and they died in the hospital. So that'll be your number, 2 or 3 people. Well, there'll be 5,000 people missing. Well, they don't have to report that because they're missing. And that's not dead, is it? So they won't tell you. They'll never tell you. They'll never tell you. Nepal doesn't want you to know. Because that would be, what? Bad for tourism, right? The Chinese will never tell you because that's bad for their government's image. I don't know. Why wouldn't they tell you? Well, they have reasons. Most of it having to do with money. Of course. We don't care why they're not going to tell you. All we care about here on this channel is why this happened and why this has happened many times now recently and why this will happen in the future. That's just what's going to happen. Okay? This cannot be stopped. These glaciers are in terminal decline. Every one of them will fail. Most of them will simply melt away and disappear. And we'll say, well, there used to be a glacier up on that mountain. I remember when I was 17, we used to sit here and watch that glacier. Now there's no sign of it. 20 years later, I'm 37 years old, and there's no sign of it. My children will never see a glacier there again. In fact, it rains on that hillside all the time. Never snows. Maybe 2 or 3 times a year it snows, and there's like 2 inches of rain or snow, and then the next day it all melts and it's gone. Okay, you can't have glaciers anymore on this planet. All the glaciers will melt. All the glaciers in the Himalayan mountains will melt. Well, that doesn't sound right. Yeah, I think that's hyperbole. You can't say that. Oh, yes, I can. Oh, yes, I can. It's happening, boys and girls. I mean, you can deny it if you want to, but go talk to the Nepalese about that. Go talk to the people actually living in the Alps. Go talk to the people living in Colorado about their Rocky Mountain glaciers, how that's working out. Go talk to the people who measure the snow and the ice in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Where is it? Do you have any? No? Where to go? Okay. Global heating won't allow ice. We're heading into hothouse Earth. This is just early days. You haven't seen anything yet. Oh no, baby, you've seen nothing. Okay, this is going to go sideways so hard. But in the meantime, we're going to have these events, right? Events. And then eventually, the events will be overwhelming. They'll be constant. We'll have, rather than one of these events every 3 years, we'll have 3 of these events every year. And that, one of these days, could be next year. They're already saying that 2027 is going to be the hottest year on record for human history on the planet. 2027. And well, okay, so that's going to make more ice? Is that what you think? That's going to preserve the glaciers and all the ice and the Colorado River, and the Rocky Mountain glaciers? That's going to be good for ice? Next year is going to be the hottest year on record forever in all of human history that has ever been known by humans for 300,000 years. That's going to be good for ice? Are you serious? No, it's not. And the Alps are going to come crashing down around people's heads because you can't have ice in the Alps. And the Himalayan mountains are going to come crashing down around people's heads because you can't have glaciers and ice in the Himalayan mountains because of global heating. And that's just how that works. And you cannot believe it, and you can think it's too soon, and you can think I'm making all that up. Well, I guess we're all going to find out, aren't we? We're going to find out. It's just more evidence that the system is going to shit. The system is falling apart. The Western states are on fire. France is in its 5th major heat wave. All right, 35,000 people have died in Europe, excess deaths in Europe. They can account for probably more than that due to heat. And I trust the Europeans to report this stuff. I don't trust the Americans to report it because the Americans are in denial. Don't want to talk about it. So you're not going to get any data out of America, but you'll get it out of the EU, European Union, and you'll get it out of, these major events that can't be ignored, like we just saw. What should people do? Well, I don't know. People can't do anything. People are going to die. There you go. Everything's going to change, and people are going to die. And if there was any hope of fleeing from sea level rise by going and living in the mountains, well, forget it. If there was any hope that it would be cooler up in the mountains down in the flats, and so when the heat waves come, we'll just go up into the Alps and go up into the Himalayan mountains, well, forget it. Because that's going to become a dangerous place. You can go up there if you want to, I guess, but you can die. Also, you can be pulverized by a massive rockfall or a massive glacial collapse. But go ahead if you want to. That's fine. No one's getting out of this alive, and we need volunteers to go first. What else can I say about this? Very little. It is 100% due to global heating. And because global heating only gets worse, and it can't do anything but persist for hundreds of years. Constantly getting worse, okay? Constantly melting the ice, constantly exposing mountainsides to rockfalls, because this can only continue. Every place we live that is vulnerable to these melt events, these rockfall events, and now we know fires and drought and rivers drying up, which is most of us. This all collectively presents an existential risk, X risk, as I like to call it. Does it lead to extinction? No. It leads to depopulation of areas that are becoming uninhabitable. That's a thing. Where do those people go? Many of them just die. And some of them pack up their bags and get on their private jet, right? There's going to be those people. And they go to some country that welcomes them because of their money. Okay, so some people get out, and most people don't. And we never hear about them. We never know about them. There will be many more events like this one that just happened in Nepal. There'll be hundreds more just in the Himalayan mountains. Hundreds. And you'll never hear them. They'll become so normal that it's like it won't even be newsworthy at some point. Well, and the news organizations deliberately don't report these things because it's bad for tourism, right? People get scared. Don't want to scare the horses, as they say. But that's where this is headed now. So think what you like. Normalize this all you want to, or start paying attention. That would be my advice. And if you think you might be, if your privacy of your thoughts, you think you might be in a place that's a little bit vulnerable to becoming, uninhabitable, well, you may want to take evasive action. Or not. Or maybe you can't, in which case you may want to make peace with the world. Prepare somehow. Write a will. Patch up your relationships with friends and family, right? So they remember you fondly, or something like that. Because if you can't get out, then that's the only other thing you can do, right? I'm done. I said this is going to be short. It is short. I have other things to do, and I should be in here doing this. I'm going to go out there and do that. And thank you for coming. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You don't have to like the content, but do it anyway. Like and subscribe. And my book, It Was 100 Days, link in the description, describes a fairly well thought out end of civilization scenario. I recommend you take a look at it. It's the kind of thing that might help you make decisions in your life right now about maybe what you have to do. Otherwise, see you next time. And in the meantime, don't die.